Welcome to another World of Warcraft Cataclysm beta video. This is Chromar for TGN, and today we're talking about the Protection Warrior, and I'm filming this over Orgrimmar in case you're wondering. I'm just perched here because it looks cool, so why not? Anyway, let's look at some talents. I'm going to talk about the talent decisions. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that there's going to be an upcoming patch on the beta servers, and before the new patch deploys on live, where warriors and as well as all other tanks actually are getting a massive bonus to their threat. Currently defensive stance and the other abilities that improve your threat for other classes increase your threat by 125%, but they're bumping that all the way up to 200%. This is quite a huge global change. I'm kind of surprised they're doing it. I don't really think it's necessary, but you know, I'll take it. Why not? Free threat. But this does kind of throw your spec into disarray because a lot of these talents for threat become completely pointless. So let's talk about why I picked them and what I want to change. This first tier here, you have Blood and Thunder is only 2 points, and your only other options Insight. Insight just gives you extra threat for single targets, and that's pretty pointless because your Shield Slam's got that covered. So I just went for Blood and Thunder. Now, it turns out that this Rend is actually really effective. It adds a great deal of threat to your AoE tanking, and the fact that it just keeps up the Rend forever on all the targets is really amazing. So I recommend taking this highly, and it's not like you have any other options. Now, once you get down to here, the shield specialization is no longer necessary in all situations. It no longer affects mitigation. It only affects rage generation. So you might be able to dump this. I mean, I have it for dungeons because you still need a lot of rage in dungeons, but once you get to raids, or against any kind of skull boss, really, this is really not very useful. The rest of these are no-brainers, especially Hold the Line is just incredible. These are all no-brainers, especially Bastion Defense, which is your new defense rating talent. Then, of course, Devastate, Vigilance, Sword and Board, Shockwave are no-brainers. So let me talk about the rest of the talents here. These other 5 are 2-pointers, and any one of them, you can pick any 3 of these 5 talents to get through here. And what I went for was Improved Revenge, which increases the damage on revenge and makes you strike an additional target. It's the additional target I really want, and you can actually take out 1 point, just put 1 point in it, and you'll still get that effect. So if you were really desperate to take 1 point out of protection to get something over here, then that would be a revenge where you want to take it, because the extra threat is not necessary. Heavy Repercussions doubles your Shield Slam damage. Now, this may probably be pretty useless after the patch, but the reason I use it now, whenever I charge in, I like to hit Shield Block immediately, and then hit Shield Slam, and that gives me my guaranteed double damage Shield Slam. And the reason I find it useful is that it's something you can control. It's not like it's a random chance. It's not like it's an increase in crit chance or something. It's something where you say, it's the beginning of the fight, I want to make sure I get a lead on threat so I can use this talent. So I found this talent useful for that reason. Safeguard I'll get to last because there's something fun about it I want to show you. Impending Victory is only useful for raid bosses when they're in execute range, and I mean, it does give you a little extra healing, so in the long run I might wind up taking this. This might wind up being an important talent, but for now I'm not worried about it because it's only 5% of your health, and you're going to have to switch from your Devastate or from your Shield Slam to your Victory Rush, because your Victory Rush is going to be up constantly. So, I mean, and it's not even going to add that much damage, so I don't know. I mean, it's just for the healing, I suppose, and it's just a small amount. I mean, it's not going to make any difference in a raid boss, but we'll see. We'll see. In the future, this may change. Thunderstruck increases the damage of your AoE abilities by a very small amount, but it does give you a nice bonus to Shockwave if you're using Thunderclap constantly. This is going to be rendered completely useless by the patch if it isn't useless already. I don't find this very useful because the amount you're actually gaining is so small, and the Shockwave is mainly a stun talent. I mean, the extra damage and threat is just a cherry on top, so I'm not that worried about improving it. If this thing caused your stun duration to improve, or if maybe Thunderclap reduced the cooldown on your Shockwave, then I'd be, oh my god, I'd be all over this talent, but unfortunately it does not do that. The last one is Safeguard. Now, in Wrath of the Lich King, this is a little controversial. A lot of people didn't take Safeguard because they felt it was too situational. I loved it because there was, almost every raid there's some situation where there's going to be somebody standing somewhere that shouldn't be, and you can save them with Safeguard. I use it all the time for that. But now I use it for something else. Let's take a look at Intervene. And notice the range here. It says 25-yard range. And notice it used to say 8 to 25. So, yes, in fact, that means that, watch this. Target myself, get some rage back, watch this. Okay, I just intervened myself, and Safeguard popped up. Yeah, so this is a shield wall on a 30-second cooldown. I know that was just totally bizarre, but I mean, it makes no sense. I think this has to be a bug. I mean, it's got to be a bug. There's no way, or something. It's going to get nerfed. I mean, this is so silly. But maybe there's some designer somewhere who came up with this idea and they did it on purpose. Who knows? So I've definitely got these talent points for now. I use this constantly on every boss immediately at the start of the fight. So I just find this to be incredibly useful at this point. Now, moving on to Fury, I mean, if he gets nerfed, then I'll probably lose it. I don't know. I don't know what I'll do after if he gets nerfed. But anyway, so moving on to Fury, most of these talents are pretty much crap. You got Threat Talent, you've got Rage Saving Talent, but only a 15% chance to proc off, only off your Shield Slam, so it comes up almost never. This talent needs a serious rework, because this is a really crappy talent. Blood Craze does heal you, and I think I'm undervaluing this a little bit, so I am strongly considering moving these talents from Battle Useless to Blood Craze. Booming Voice, this is a really important one. It's the only really important one in Fury that for your protection tank, and it allows you to use your rage generation abilities, your rage shouts, more quickly, and they generate extra rage. Since these essentially replaced Blood Rage, that's why I have it. So I think this is really good. I think it's totally worth putting wasted points into Cruelty and these others just to get this talent. The other talents here are just crap. Execute you'll never use. Root Interruption is such a small bonus to your damage you don't need that. And Piercing Howl, I mean, as much as when are you ever gonna use that? You're never gonna use that in tanking. It's silly. And Blitz only helps you at the very beginning of the fight, and the stun is useless because the range on it is tiny. So I used to have this talent, but I dumped it. War Academy is more threat to your abilities that aren't even your primary threat abilities. Deep Wounds, because it works off your weapon damage, is not going to do very much at all. But, I don't know, I guess if you have like a point or two to waste, you can do that there. Drums of War reduces the rage cost of abilities that are already super cheap, so there's no point to it. Second Wind, this is like a niche talent. I'm sure there's some specific fights where you might be able to build a build around Second Wind. If you know that a boss is going to like immobilize you for the whole fight or something. I mean, because it does give you a ton of healing. This is actually a lot better than Blood Craze, that's for sure. But I think that this is something you could consider for your warrior if you're in a specific situation where you know it's going to be proccing constantly. Tactical Mastery, of course, is completely useless for protection because you're never changing stances from defensive. And the one I skipped was Field Dressing, which is a non-negotiable must-have talent. If I was a raid leader and you came into my raid without this talent, I would probably kick you out because, I mean, seriously, increase all healing received by 6%. How can it? No, you're taking that talent. So anyway, so that's the roundup for talents. Let's look at the glyphs. For your prime glyphs, you have no choice. There's only 9 glyphs. 3 of them are for protection, so you take those 3, and they just increase your threat. So they're pretty crappy. Moving on to major, Cleave is a good one because it increases the number of targets your Cleave hits. And you know, Cleave has been nerfed pretty significantly because you can't spam it. They did increase the damage per hit, but I'd rather have the spamming. I think that this change to Heroic Strike and Cleave was a huge misstep, and I hope they restore it at some point in the future, but I don't think they ever will because Ghostcrawler seems to believe that people don't like spamming Cleave or Heroic Strike, and I don't know where he got that idea from. That's very silly. But anyway, Glyph of Shockwave, more stunning more often, that's a no-brainer. Resonating Power, cheaper Thunderclap, that's a no-brainer. So I love those. I love both of those glyphs. The rest of these are, there's really nothing else useful except possibly the range on Thunderclap, but it's only 2 yards, such a small range. Shield Wall, which reduces the damage taken by more, makes it more powerful, but gives it a huge cooldown. So screw that. I like my 2-minute cooldown Shield Wall. I'll take that. For minor glyphs, there's really no choice except Demo Shout and Berserker Rage. This Commanding Shout is useless because you don't need the extra duration. So let's move on to some demonstrations here. We're going to show off Earth Rager and Halls of Origination first, as well as some other bosses here. This guy is a real pushover. I just want to show my cycle on bosses. Now, the first thing I do when I come in is I hit Shield Block and Shield Slam. That's to get your guaranteed double damage Shield Slam for some spike threat. You know, if you don't have that talent, then it's not totally necessary. I just like it. I think it's a good way to get started. Plus, you never know if your healer's ready, so you want the extra mitigation. Once that wears off, you can even help yourself out with a safeguard or whatnot. I don't think I really use the safeguard technique in this fight because it's so trivial that the boss is like doesn't even attack you half the time. It's really stupid. So eventually he splits up and some ads come out. For picking these up, obviously you want to grab the elite ones and use your single target spells on them, and then your thunderclap on the other ones. These guys come from all directions. It's actually a lot easier to do this fight if you have everyone stacked on top of each other, but we weren't concerned about it because we're like totally owning this instance. But you can also use intervene if people have bugs on them, or in this case I just taunted this bug straight off this guy. And once they're bunched up, there's nothing to it. So of course you're going to be using Shockwave to stun, Thunderclap to pick them up, and you want to put a Rend on one of your elites so that the Rend spreads around to all the bugs. Not that it's necessary, because those bugs are like extremely weak. They're like they're just trying to make this encounter is just really trivial. So even the ads are super weak. But if the ads were a little tougher, then I would probably be more concerned about making sure that they get rended, because that Rend does add quite a bit of threat. So after the boss comes back, he pretty much just had a heart attack and died. So yeah, let's move on to another easy boss. This is the guy in the Vault of Lights on Repet, or whatever his name is. I'm sure I forgot what his name is. I have no idea. But this guy, he's another one that will stop attacking you for a while, which is pretty nice. But he does do an AoE that is something to worry about. So anyway, my technique on him is really unchanged. Good generic boss technique. Hit your shield block, hit your shield slam for your spiked aggro. Get a Rend on there, get a demo shout, get a thunderclap, get a disarm if applicable. I don't believe this guy's disarmable either. And of course revenge every time it comes up, because it is big damage, big threat. And use heroic strike whenever you have the rage, which should be most of the time. Although in this fight and the previous fight, they do stop attacking you for the points. Now here's that Omega Stance, whatever it's called. Which is pretty nasty. I just threw a safeguard on the healer. I like to do that all the time whenever there's kind of a big AoE like that. And if I felt that I was being, if I felt that my health was low, or that the healer might have trouble keeping up with the healing on me, then I would safeguard myself perhaps. But in any kind of AoE situation like that, the healer is going to be the one who has the least amount of health, and is going to be paying the least attention to their own health. They're going to be trying to heal you. So the healers a lot of times can wind up getting killed because they simply aren't watching their own health. So throwing a safeguard on there does help. So here's the Sun boss. This is probably the hardest boss in here, and I have wiped on him before, but what he does is just a big AoE after a while that really hurts. Other than that, there's not much. He does shoot these pillars of fire everywhere. I've tried, but you can't seem to spell reflect the sun fires that he casts on you. Anyway, same old stuff. I did disarm him in there. I don't know if you saw that, but he did disarm for a second. Anyway, so what you want to do is the same boss technique as usual, and it's not that much different. Really, it's not that much different from Wrath of the Lich King, I gotta say. The only thing that's different is that you can safeguard yourself, and you can spread the Rend around, and of course your Heroic Strike is not spammable. It's really too bad, too, because I love spammable Heroic Strike. Okay, here comes the big AoE. Notice how he's doing a sliding animation. So we're going to do the big AoE, and it's really going to mess us up, so I'm going to safeguard the healer real quick, and just get ready to start beating him up. You do gain a damage bonus while he's in this form, so you want to just beat him up until he runs out of juice in just a second. The healer's doing an amazing job keeping up with his damage, by the way. This is really hard to do. There we go. Not too bad. But as you see, the technique for tanking doesn't really change from boss to boss that much. It's still charge in, shield block, shield slam to help survive the opening volley. Once that shield slam gets off, you have the spike threat, so you can start applying your debuffs. Pretty simple. Now, this guy is a little different, so that's why I wanted to include him. He is not mob you tank yourself. I'm just hitting him here just for the extra damage and get some rage built up. But he's going to come run over here and summon this portal, and some ads are going to come out. And you do not want to tank the boss here. You want to tank the ads. But anyway, I'll show you how to pick up these ads. It's real simple. Your party members are going to ignore the ads. I asked my party members to help me kill the worms, but it wasn't necessary because I only have 15k health. I didn't realize they were that low. I thought they were like a normal mob. But these sentinels don't take any damage. Now when these other guys come out, you want to switch to them and kill them immediately, because they cast this nasty spell that stops you from being able to be healing. So I'm going to switch to them and use my shield bash for that. I'm also going to alternate shield bash and shockwave so that it keeps the damage off of me. Shockwave is so important for these kind of ads and trash, because it's a damage prevention. That's really what it's really for. It just prevents you and your party members from taking damage from spells. It's not really for threat. I mean, it does add some threat, but on a 17-second cooldown, how reliable is that? You can't rely on that for threat. So you want to use it for stun, for damage prevention. Now, we're going to beat this guy exceptionally fast because this is a very high DPS group. That Drew is doing like 8-9k DPS or some crap, so yeah, he's down already. Well, that's it for today. I hope that was informative. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.